Why was it a mistake not to go the director's route?
Well, I don't think, I mean, I have a literal mind. And I think that my mind was like, well, if I want to be a director, I'll be a director's assistant because that's how you learn how to, you don't. This is as asymmetrical a business as they come, and and it's as a director assistant, you're really kind of just looked at as kind of a personal assistant, an executive assistant. You can make some connections, but you're not going to get to that. You're not going to get to that place by studying under a director, which is kind of what I thought I was doing at the time in my early 20s. It was, I think if you want to be a director, you direct. I think if you want that, you produce, you get into small theater, you work with actors, you write scripts, you do that. You don't just kind of sit on a director's desk and try to do that. At least not for me, at least not at that time. I just had this, as I said, real kind of linear way of looking at things. And I figured, well, I'll work for a director, I'll be a director.
Well, I think it's not uncommon to think that. I mean, there's no blueprint for how Hollywood works. So you went from a writer's assistant to a director's assistant. What'd you do after that?
Well, after that, I almost left the business.
Tell us why.
I went to film school. I made a movie, and I had this kind of real, I did, unbeknownst to me, idealistic view of what filmmaking was, is that, it was a collaborative effort with everybody who's there on the set. And it's like, it's not. I mean, it's like, I sat on the set and realized, oh my God, this is the last place I want to be. This is what I thought I wanted to do. If this isn't this is a terrible experience. And if this is what filmmaking is, then I don't want to do it. And I didn't really, it took me a while to understand that, like, it's a business. I mean, it's like a production line. You're making a movie. So there's only a very small group of people on that set that really have any say in anything and have any exposure to what the creative is. Everybody else is just running around moving shit and getting lights up, and and it's just, none of that really interested me. So what I did was I was out of work for about 6 months and ended up hooking back up with my friend who introduced me to the guy who put me on The Simpsons. They had a job at a company called Largo, and I ended up working I decided I wanted to write, and I started writing at the same time, and I hooked up with a woman who ran development and production at this company, Largo, and became like a kind of junior development person, thinking that in my linear mindset, if you want to write, you work in development, which is the worst thing you can do. Don't ever work in development if you want to write, because you spend all day exercising your brain power and other people's scripts, and then you got to come home at night and try to write your own. And it tends to have a dual kind of degradation of over-analysis of your own work, and also just sort of exhaustion because you've been spending all day analyzing scripts. So I did that for a couple of years. I was at Largo. We moved over to a company called Propaganda Films. She moved over to another business, another company. And at about that time, I was like, now I'm out. Now I'm going to get out of the business. And I had a conversation with my mom about this at the time. And she said, you should really get back into editing. You really enjoyed that in high school and college. You were sort of, that was held your focus. And I said, hey, that's a good idea. I should probably do that. And I went to the head of the company at the time because my boss was leaving the company. And I said, I want to be an editor. And he said, okay, let me hook you up with the guy who runs post-production here at Propaganda. And I went over and became a PA and worked on a show called Fallen Angels, which was being produced for Showtime at the time. And met a couple of editors and a couple of assistants. And it was weird. Once I made that move into editing, it's like I worked my ass off, but the opportunities which were eluding me in other avenues of the business kind of sort of laid out. They were just there when I needed them. And I enjoyed it. I found my place. I found my people. And it worked. It was the right move.
How old were you when you got that PA job?
53. No, I was 28. 28 years old.
See, and I really appreciate you walking through all of those steps because that's not unlike most people. You know, it takes a while to find your footing. It takes a while to have some trial and error as to what's working and what's not. Has it helped you in your career to really know and understand what development is and directing is and writing is? Has it influenced your editing?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that um, one of the things, the biggest influence in just the most kind of basic way is that when I'm in the, once I got into the cutting room, it's like I didn't want to do anything else. Like I wasn't sitting in an editing room thinking, God, I want to be on the set. It seems so exciting. Or wow, I'd really like to be editing. I'd really like to be in development. I had already done all that stuff. I knew I didn't like it. And so I was focused on what I was doing, and I was focused on making the movie in the cutting room. So on that level, it helped a ton. As far as informing what I do, I think that, um, the years of working in development and trying to write, really, I got a very good idea on script structure. And that helped in terms of looking at stories when you're in the cutting room and figuring out ways to be more efficient